Welcome to the virtual Thrive Proposers Day. I'm Mimi Lee, and I'm a program manager at ARPA-H. Almost exactly 2 years ago today, I began crafting the concept of Thrive, a large-scale, high-risk, high-impact program as a proposal to ARPA-H. The concept was welcomed, and the work to create a challenge that the external world of experts could solve began. Multiple internal gates, an administration change, and a lot of patience from all corners has finally paid off. Today, we're excited to share what I hope to be a catalyst to accelerate the future. Please note that everything discussed today is available in the published Thrive Innovative Solutions opening. We look forward to hearing your ideas and reading your proposals. The future of medicine depends on you. Our agenda today includes an introduction to ARPA-H and an overview of the Mission Office Health Science Futures by Dr. Tyler Best, our acting director. It is followed by an overview of Thrive by myself. Caitlin Burns from the Business Innovation Division will then follow with an overview of the agreements. And finally, Jennifer Rollman, our Business Financial Manager, will cover issues related to the cost and administration. With that, I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Tyler Best.
Thank you, Mimi. Really glad to be able to present the ARPA-H model to everyone. I am Tyler Best, the Acting Director of the Health Science Futures Office, one of four mission offices at the agency. As you may know, our agency is fairly new, but we are focused on accelerating better health outcomes for everyone. And that can be broken down into kind of three parts, is that we really want to accelerate. We just don't want to improve, but accelerate health outcomes for everyone. The second part is outcomes. We are an agency that really focuses on outcomes, less so about discovery or fundamental knowledge, but knowledge that can be used to deliver outcomes. And the last part is for everyone. We don't want this to just be for those that are localized to major hospital centers or major academic centers, but for everyone all across America. Who we are an agency housed under the Health and Human Services, HHS, and we are a lean, very flat organization. Our mission is to be very disruptive and take on high risk, high reward projects. We fund a number of different efforts in that risky space. We need to take on unconventional private-public alliances to help develop these transformative solutions from any disease, any area of health. We are disease agnostic, and that means we can do anything from blindness to cancer to biomanufacturing. We try to move quickly and move at the speed of a startup to solve these really strong and tough healthcare problems. But we try to avoid the bureaucracy. As many of you may know, bureaucracy can get in the way of progress, and we try to avoid that. We use flexible funding tools. Some of the other agencies across the federal government typically use grants or contracts, cooperative agreements. At our agency, we primarily use other transactions, which kind of fit into an other category. That's why they're named other transactions, and that they're not grants. They follow a very different structure in that they can be adaptive and transmutable and changeable to increase output, increase outcomes, and be adaptive to where the science, the technology takes us. How it works is that we have program managers that come into the agency. They plan and initiate a program concept that talks about the challenges, the problems in a specific area, and those program managers outline specific metrics and goals in which they think will solve that problem. That program gets approved, the solicitation goes out to the public, out to you all, where you're able to then apply to provide solutions to that. We read those proposals and evaluate and select the best ones based on a number of factors, including scientific merit, capabilities of the teams, and other factors that the program manager may designate in the solicitation. After those are evaluated, negotiation for those awards are made, and those are primarily negotiating the statements of work. So exactly and specifically what tasks, what milestones, are going to be done by you, the performer teams that we call them, out in the field to solve those solutions. The program manager will work with you to solidify those statements of work. Also part of that negotiation is the budget and costs associated with that. And each program manager has a team coupled with our contracts team to help negotiate the appropriate costs for those projects and efforts that you all do. After those awards are made, the contract, that other transaction is inked and signed, then performance begins. And the program managers are actively managing your performance, making sure that those metrics and milestones are met and deliverables are made so that we can measure progress. If a team is wildly successful through that other transaction, we have the opportunity to potentially provide more funds if things are really successful. On the other hand, if things just aren't going the way that you anticipated in the proposal and things just aren't working, there's negotiations that can happen to scale down or end the award so that both the federal government is utilizing their resources appropriately for taxpayer accountability, as well as resources of your time, effort, and energy, so it doesn't end in dead ends. And ultimately, at the end of a project, completion and closeouts are made where reports are made and solutions deliverables are provided to not only the federal government, but the community writ large so that these improved health outcomes can be implemented in the real world with doctors, patients, clinicians, research centers, et cetera, et cetera. That is all very traditional across our agency, and we try to really focus on the administration's goals and efforts in that regard, and that we have efforts in manufacturing and access in rural areas. We really want to be at the frontier and leading out on the technologies that are going to put the United States at the forefront and have the leadership be promulgated throughout the world. We look for being proactive in health. So it's one thing to cure a disease or treat something, but if we can never get sick or prevent getting even more sick than we actually are, we are looking for solutions that do that through our proactive health approach. We look at health security, cybersecurity at hospitals, at health centers, at data for individuals as well as communities, and want to make sure that that is safe, secure, and transparent. Ultimately, as is emphasized by the administration, we also focus on addressing chronic disease, and that is a major burden for each individual, society, and the country as a whole. We really have a broad ecosystem of stakeholders and engagement and performer teams that can span anywhere from the individual patient or patient groups, the healthcare providers, general public, other federal governments, foundations, and partners. We coordinate with the private sector and private investors to ensure that what we develop is useful and is going to translate into the real world. We partner also with nonprofits, NGOs, industry, and academia to do all of these things. And all of these stakeholders, wherever they come from, can fit into a variety of buckets, whether that's the customer themselves that are going to use the technology or output that we generate, or they are the performers, the teams that actually do the work for developing these solutions to healthcare problems. Regardless of where these stakeholders come from, we try to maintain that ecosystem and communication across all of these organizations. I introduce myself as the acting director of the Health Science Futures Office, HSF. We are really focused on accelerating advances across all research domains to remove limitations. As our name implies, we are looking towards the future, and we feel like the best way to predict the future is to actually create it. And we feel that we can create that future through innovative tools, technologies, and platforms, whether that's addressing unmet needs of tomorrow or of today versus developing tools and technology that may not even have ever been thought of that could really drive towards healthcare solutions in years to come, in the days of tomorrow. We have a number of efforts, programs that have been launched and made public, listed here on the right-hand side of the screen. These span everything from replacing a joint through injectable cellular technologies under the NITRO program, or replacing transplanting an eye to restore vision under the THEA program, or even replacing damaged brain tissue through the FRONT program. All of these are wildly challenging, but yet we see them as the future of health and health outcomes for the American people and in general, the world at large. Ultimately, I kind of walked through a lot of this in a previous slide, is the program life cycle. Program manager, in this case, Mimi on the Thrive program, she came in with an idea and has identified that rare diseases are challenging to provide therapies for. because of a number of factors, which she'll outline later, from sample sizes to the genetic engineering and all that goes with Thrive. She's identified that, as do all the other program managers for their specific program. They really dig down into the challenges of where things are today versus where things could be. We fall in love with the problem, not the solution, and that we focus and really try to pick apart those problems into their fundamental parts and address them one by one so that those problems can be overcome challenge by challenge. As I described earlier, once that is evaluated, the program launches, the solicitation goes out, in which you are here listening to this recording to learn about the Thrive solicitation more in depth from Mimi and team, where you can learn specifically and exactly what Mimi is looking for. You'll submit your proposal to the Open ISO on Thrive, where Mimi and team and other federal employees will evaluate your proposals, and Mimi and team will select the best ones to start negotiations with. Once negotiations happen and the contracts are signed, you become a performer. A performer team is that academic, that company, that nonprofit that is doing the work to carry out the innovative solutions to that challenge that Mimi or other program managers have outlined in their solicitation. Throughout the duration of the performance of the project, you'll receive support from ARPA-H, not only through the program manager, but other partners that we generate through our connections of all those stakeholders that we mentioned on the other slide. And whether you're a performer team that makes it all the way to the end and is successful every step along the way, and you transition your tools and your technology and your capability out into the real world, that's our goal. That may not be the case for other teams, where on this top row, for example, you may get near the finish line, but things just sometimes don't work out in science. We know that and we understand that. Where others may have a very risky idea, we're willing to try and take that chance on you. And if it succeeds, great. If not, then, as I mentioned before, we will negotiate with you to end things and wrap things up so that we don't waste taxpayer money and that time and effort is not utilized in inefficient ways on your part. And with that, I think I will turn the time over to Mimi to really dig into the specifics of her Thrive program.
Thank you, Tyler. As you might have heard, here at ARPA-H, we start with a big, bold vision. In building Thrive, I pondered, what if all diseases could be cured with genetics? Starting with a big, bold vision is one thing. Focusing on a specific problem to start is another. Today, there is a critical urgency to address rare disease patients, as investments in such individually small patient populations does not align with current drug development business models. Thrive is designed to fix this and counts on your expertise and collaboration to realize a more hopeful future. There are over 10,000 unique rare diseases, which affect roughly 1 in 10 people. Hence, rare as a whole is actually common. Let's pause for a moment and place this statistic in the context of breast cancer, which affects mostly women. Rare diseases affect both genders. If breast cancer affects 1 in 9 women, or roughly 1 in 18 people, that is men and women, the chances of being affected by a rare disease is almost 2 times higher than the chances of being affected by breast cancer. And tragically, most rare diseases affect our newborns, infants, and children. Sometimes it is fatal. This is a crisis. Meanwhile, large therapeutic gaps highlight an urgency to catalyze solutions. Roughly 95% of rare diseases have no approved medicines, despite the ability to characterize most of them with genetics. And crucially, after more than $20 billion of investment over the past decade or so, only 1 genetic editing medicine has been brought to market at a price that is unattainable for most and unsustainable as an industry. We are compelled to do better. The genetic revolution is here. However, multi-pronged challenges stand in the way of ubiquitous real-world therapies. These challenges can be divided into 2 broad buckets. First, there are the technical limitations. Current genetic therapies in development are inconsistent, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. Ex vivo approaches are highly burdensome and sometimes even toxic for sick patients. And ex vivo approaches are complicated by operational and logistical complexities and processes. Meanwhile, current in vivo approaches are plagued by delivery problems, including a lack of specificity, high dosing requirements, and high risks of immunogenicity. Second, there are the real-world obstacles, which present an equally, if not greater, challenge. Ecosystem stakeholder priorities are simply not aligned. Industry is accountable to optimize their shareholder returns on investment. Medical systems have been designed and operate with the purpose of addressing large populations with the most common diseases. Payers are financially incentivized to minimize losses. Academia is constrained by the existential need to acquire funding and to publish. And regulators are constrained by traditional pathways that are not tailored for single-time interventions like genetic interventions that are poised to potentially cure the rarest of diseases that threaten our youngest populations. As a result, patients, their families, and caregivers face interminable odysseys that outlive their diseases and drain their resources. Now is the time to catalyze technical achievement and align priorities. Thrive is inspired by patients, clinicians, and scientists who have been seeding a future where all of us will have the option to flow through an expedited journey from rapid diagnosis to precision treatments. How will we get there? Approved therapeutic platforms at accredited interventional genetic centers will accelerate development of more precision genetic medicines, or PGMs, by that center. In turn, each expert center will be virtually networked with satellite clinics where patients access care in their local communities. Finally, an open source federated data platform will enable autonomous, closed loop, AI-informed iteration, leveraging R&D input and real-world outcomes of every diagnostic and intervention collected over lifetimes across populations. Ultimately, Thrive intends to transform the medical paradigm and enable all people to be treated as individuals, informed by their unique genetics. Rare will get us there. Thrive consists of 3 parallel modules. At its core in Module 1, Design and Development, is technology innovation. Note that for the purposes of this program, platform is defined as a combination of therapeutic cargo plus targeted in vivo delivery. Wrapped around Module 1 is investigational medicine, where novel PGMs, that is precision genetic medicines, from each platform are clinically evaluated in humans. Finally, in Module 3, pilots and scaling will demonstrate real-world viability, sustainability, and scalability of the process. All performer teams are required to address all modules and are highly encouraged to initiate all 3 modules in parallel at the start of the program. Let's dive deeper into Module 1. In this module, performers are tasked with the challenge of developing at least 2 different PGM platforms. Some examples of platforms are listed on the left side of this slide. Teams are invited to bring platforms of their choice to the program. Thrive seeks solutions that address individual conditions or categories of conditions with the highest unmet medical needs, combined with the lowest commercial viability in today's business model. Thrive is age and organ agnostic. Solutions that address severely debilitating and rapidly progressive conditions are encouraged. Each team will develop a portfolio that consists of at least 2 PGMs in each of at least 2 platforms. For example, a team may choose to develop 3 PGMs in Platform A and 2 PGMs in Platform B, or 3 PGMs in Platform B and 2 PGMs in Platform C. Thrive is agnostic to specific technology brought to the program and encourages creativity and innovation. That being said, teams should consider the program's technology goals when building and designing their portfolios. Platforms should be designed to enable precision, correction, and tunability. Sequences or genes can be corrected, removed and replaced, or otherwise edited. Therapeutic cargo should be delivered in vivo to precise targets without triggering toxic immunogenicity. Any delivery tools developed in Thrive should be compatible with broad cargo types, have versatile carrying capacities, and be amenable to cell-free synthetic manufacturability. Teams are also encouraged to consider therapeutic goals. PGMs should aim to halt, reverse, or cure diseases. Preventative solutions are also encouraged. Solutions should be informed by systems, cellular, and molecular biology. Teams are encouraged to think in terms of addressing pathophysiological nodes or common pathways addressable at the genetic level to solve for multiple conditions at once. Broadly applicable solutions are encouraged. Examples of compelling solution types are listed on the right side of the slide. PGMs that can address severe pediatric conditions that genetically mirror adult conditions, common modulators such as tRNAs that target universal codons, programmable gene insertions capable of addressing genes with multiple mutations, and solutions that address common epigenetic elements that lead to disease are just some examples to consider. Other ideas with strong rationale not mentioned here are also welcome. Module 2 is designed to innovate and catalyze fit-for-purpose PGM development timelines. Regulatory collaboration between Thrive and regulators should aim to encourage Thrive teams to surpass usual conventional innovative drug development regulatory submission and review timelines. It should also encourage dynamic innovation of regulatory guidelines alongside tech innovation. And it should encourage broader stakeholder understanding of emerging tech to inform identification of precedent-setting elements. Performer teams are encouraged to demonstrate expedited PGM innovation, pave regulatory paths, set precedents, and establish platform standards and references to streamline iterative PGM development for all future sponsors. Team alignment, inclusive of embedded patients or advocates who understand the science and the clinical risks, is required before each novel PGM can advance from Module 1 into Module 2. Given the high unmet medical needs of unaddressed rare disease populations, teams are encouraged to design trials that optimize efficiency and offer earlier choice to patients willing to try despite understood risks. Teams are also encouraged to design single-phase trials that evaluate safety and biomarker-based efficacy with minimal numbers of patients. Trials should be less than a year in duration, and goals should include accelerated approvals for each PGM to achieve, ultimately, platform approval. Intra-individual studies are also encouraged, as small populations and phenotypic heterogeneity across patients within many rare conditions can obfuscate pooled results, especially when Bayesian statistics are leveraged to discern effect in small populations. Successful Module 2 performance should set initial platform regulatory precedents or priors and enable cross-referencing for expedited follow-on PGM approvals within that platform. In turn, platform approval should accelerate iterative PGM development by future sponsors who have a license to do so. ARPA-H and the Thrive PM team intends to facilitate FDA engagement for all performer teams. Module 3 is designed to demonstrate viability, scalability, and sustainability in the real world. Each team will be required to clinically investigate novel platforms and PGMs at an expert center. In addition, each team is required to be networked virtually with a satellite clinic where patients can access care, at least 250 miles away from the expert center. This requirement is meant to encourage performers to conceive solutions that can be deployed not only at elite academic hospitals, but also closer to where patients live, minimizing today's barrier to access for cutting-edge care. Thrive is an ambitious program with multiple goals. The next 5 slides are provided as an example of how a collaborative, cross-functional, multidisciplinary performer team might strategize a solution. First, a team may decide to leverage a clinically proven, technically lower risk platform, such as a lipid nanoparticle delivered antisense oligonucleotide, to kick off team solutions for modules 2 and 3. Platform 1 might strategically include 2 or more PGMs to surpass baseline metrics. Each iterative PGM within a platform is anticipated to reach subsequent modules more expeditiously. A team may also take on a clinically unproven, higher risk platform as its second portfolio platform. While Platform 2 R&D takes place, the team drives modules 2 and 3 with Platform 1. With each iteration of PGMs within a platform, the time through modules 2 and 3 are expected to lessen. Thrive also sets meet to treat target goals, or the time between patient presentation and administration of a therapeutic. The minimum time per PGM is 24 months. Here, Platform 1 and Platform 2 minimums are depicted by the squares. Although a platform's first PGM may not reach this minimum goal, a subsequent PGM within a platform may. Teams are encouraged to strive for moonshot goals. For example, iterative PGMs within a platform with meet to treat durations less than 6 months will be rewarded. Finally, teams will be most highly rewarded when their novel PGMs achieve space shot goals or meet to treat times of less than 3 months. Thrive sets milestones and time limits that performer teams should consider when strategizing their portfolios and solutions. Minimum, moonshot, and space shot time limits are indicated on the right side of this slide. Module 1 milestones start with a team program strategy inclusive of platforms intended and individual PGM TPPs, or target product profiles. Module 2 milestones include time to advance each novel PGM from Module 1 into Module 2. Module 3 milestones measure time between treating patients at expert hubs and remote clinics, as is approval of payer reimbursement. Thrive is gamified. Points are assigned to each metric within each module to incentivize teams to innovate technically with rigor and urgency. Details can be reviewed in the Thrive ISO. Minimum metrics for Module 1 are boxed in pink in this slide. For example, team collaboration, as demonstrated by time to establish platform and PGM TPPs, will be evaluated. Platform design will also be evaluated for technical difficulty and risk. PGM design will be evaluated for creativity and ability to address disease at a physiological level that is broader than a single mutation, single gene, single cell, single disease solution. Efficacy, safety, and tunability will also be evaluated. Moonshots and space shots are all awarded higher points accordingly. Point accumulation will be used to evaluate teams and their progress throughout the course of the program. Team progress through modules 2 and 3 are also evaluated via metrics rewarded with points. Details can be found in the Thrive ISO. Thrive is agnostic of type of organization and welcomes academic, nonprofit, industrial, or other types of organizations to participate on teams. We do not anticipate any single entity to solve Thrive. Rather, we expect and highly encourage collaborative private-public partnerships that bring multidisciplinary, cross-functional expertise and operational capabilities to achieve the goals of all 3 modules. Team requirements are depicted above. A single entity may provide multiple areas of expertise and/or capabilities. Critically, teams are required to embed patient advocacy into their membership. Proposals that merely include patient advocates as consultants will not be considered. Thrive requires teams to strategize and design for viability, sustainability, and scalability of their solutions across modules 1, 2, and 3. Teams will also need to consider pricing, novel IP models and incentives, federated data, and access solutions. IP and licensing examples are presented in the contracting section. Finally, every team must consider a proposed business model to support ubiquitous implementation of individualized PGMs for all. Thrive is designed to harness revolutionary technology and address today's highest unmet medical needs to catalyze a future paradigm of medicine. Diseases from rare to common will be addressed not only at an organ-specific, cellular, or molecular level, but also at a genetic level. People will be able to live without chronic polypharmacy or taking pills every day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Instead, people will have the option of timely, clinically appropriate, individualized, precision genetic interventions. People will also be able to be treated holistically as unique genetic individuals, as opposed to partitioned organ systems. Finally, people will be able to find cutting-edge care like that found at elite urban academic institutions in their local communities. Thrive is inspired by the many rare disease patients I have had the privilege to meet over the last 10 years in my career in industrial genetic medicine's development. They have shown me courage, determination, and hope. Finally, Thrive is dedicated to Sammy Basso, a rare disease patient who I'm honored to call a friend and a colleague. He was a leader who modeled a life full of infectious joy and turned his fate into a lifetime of purpose to help others. And now to Caitlin Burns, our Team Agreements Officer.
All right, thank you, Mimi. I am Caitlin Burns, one of the agreements officers here at ARPA-H, and I am supporting Ryan Daniels, who will be the head agreements officer and who you will probably communicate with throughout this process. We're going to talk about the Innovative Solutions Opening that we also call the ISO, and then some of the more administrative components of this ISO. So first of all, kind of a background of what our ISO is. We came up with this unique term to discuss what is really a solicitation to highlight some of the differences from others that you may have seen even within the government. So we allow for merit-based awards, and this allows us to really focus on the technical quality of the solution summary or the proposal. With that, the best idea is really more valuable to us than the best price. And you'll see that as we go through the evaluation criteria later on. It also allows for a variety of approaches. We do not expect a singular solution. We expect creative and unique solutions that play to each proposing entity's strengths. And then we have flexibility for a variety of instruments to be considered. This one specifically, we will talk about here on the next slide. They will all be other transactions that we're awarding. And non-government entities are invited to participate on proposer teams. We don't have established funding limits or ranges for individual awards, but we do expect that your budget kind of makes sense and is commensurate with the technical approach you are submitting. Solution summary submissions are mandatory, and we may only consider those that are submitted by the submission date. That will be outlined in the ISO itself that you might be finding on sam.gov or other places. We'll kind of touch on this a few times, but be sure to check back to that ISO regularly. If there are updates, that is the official place that you will find those. For this program, program team leads may submit only one full proposal as the lead, but may participate as a team member on other proposals being submitted. Selected teams will be either encouraged or discouraged at the solution summary phase. So again, solution summaries are mandatory. After that phase, we will either encourage or discourage. While those that are discouraged may still submit, we highly discourage unless there have been significant technical changes. And that's because it's an investment on both sides. As the proposing entity, there's a lot of time, money, and effort that goes into a proposal. And same on our end, giving due diligence to reviewing every proposal. So if you are not encouraged at the solution summary phase, we highly discourage submitting a future proposal. For award types, again, we are awarding other transactions, which we typically call OTs. So we have this authority for when projects kind of have unique attributes and the success of the project really needs this flexibility. OTs are contracts, so both parties will sign. It is a legal contract, and it really just reflects commercial contracting processes more than it does the typical FAR that a lot of government entities use. OTs are collaborative, and it is really a partnership as we move through the process. There's free-flowing negotiations. We hope that there is never the feeling that it's our way or the highway. We want this to be a conversation because the point is for the entities to succeed, and we want to do what we can to make sure that both sides are getting what they need out of this. An overview of the Thrive process. So we're here at the far left on Proposers Day. And solution summaries are the next stage. Please check the ISO to make sure that that date is what you were expecting it to be and has not changed. After solution summaries, you will get either an encourage or discourage for full proposal. Full proposal due date, again, that will be listed very clearly in the ISO. And once more, we highly discourage submitting a full proposal if you did not receive an encouragement from the solution summary stage. After that, we'll go through our internal evaluation processes, and then we'll begin negotiations with performers selected based on their full proposal. After that, once agreements are signed, we have program kickoff, and then we all get down to work. One kind of unique attribute of the Thrive program is that cost sharing is a requirement. So it's really about the viability post-Thrive. We are kind of the launch pad, and then we hope that these programs kind of take on a life of their own. So cost sharing is often we see is a cash or monetary value, but it absolutely does not have to be. It can also be an in-kind donation, such as materials or services. If you think that you have something else to offer, please submit that with maybe a justification, and it'll be considered or negotiated. There is a proposed cost share percentage by program year here, and you can see it's kind of that inverse relationship that we expect as the program goes on and kind of reaches maturity. Once again, here's kind of a sample, and we encourage you to propose strategies that incentivize cost sharing that are maybe unique or are different, whatever it is that you think this market would respond well to. So we really want to maximize that with the goal of optimizing patient affordability. So here, again, a sample of what something might look like for Thrive. In the middle, you can see here the IP creators might have something different than the other Thrive performers, and that is up to you, again, to propose what makes sense for your domain. A little bit about our evaluation process in the checklist. Once again, the ISO posted on sam.gov or on the program webpage will have all of this laid out for what you are expected to submit at each stage. So just some things to highlight in the solution summary stage. You have 3-page limit there, and then your strategies, your profiles, timeline, your organizational chart. Your rough order of magnitude is based on your budget, and references is what we are expecting to see in the solution summary phase. The full proposal is maybe a little bit more similar. If you've seen other ARPA-H projects, we have a volume 1, a volume 2, a volume 3, and those are outlined again more in the ISO itself. Step 3 is where we get to the negotiation and award. So we might be requesting some revised documents at that stage. Again, that's a very fluid conversation, a back and forth, what we're looking for, and then a fully executed teaming agreement. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that. We will talk more, but that is something that can take significant time depending on the makeup and participants of your team. So please don't leave that for the last minute and be thinking about that fully executed teaming agreement early on. A little bit on eligibility information. This comes from Section 3 of the ISO. If you are considering partnering with an FFRDC, please read that carefully. There's some specific information there. And then a SAM.gov registration is required for the performer or awardee. That's not the PI. We don't need individual people or any of the key personnel being registered in SAM. It's for the kind of entity as a whole, the performing entities, be that a university, a commercial, whoever you are, that entity would need the SAM registration. That is also something that can take a little bit of time to acquire, so please don't leave that to the last minute. We're going to talk next about the teaming structures. There's 2 kinds we typically see, the prime-sub relationship and then the multi-party relationship. Each has its own advantages and disadvantages that we're going to talk through. So Thrive is a program that we do not expect that one prime entity could accomplish all of the tasks. So we are looking for multi-party relationships, and that is where kind of the lead entity might switch at certain phases of the program because that entity has the best capabilities for that point of the program. So again, Thrive is one of those kind of complex programs that a single performer we're not expecting can accomplish the tasks successfully, and we are looking for that multi-party relationship. With that comes privity of contract. So the definition of privity of contract is here really for tactical purposes. What it means is who the government, so us as the agreements officers and ARPA-H, who we can talk to. So who we talk to is who we have privity of contract with. In a prime sub relationship, the government only has privity of contract with the prime. That means that we do not go around the prime to talk to the sub, because the subs have their contracts with the prime has their contract with the government. So we don't skip any of those stages. We only talk with the prime, and there is no privity of contract between the government and any subcontractors. With that, again, advantages and disadvantages. The prime sub relationship is one that most tend to be familiar with, and it's what you see a lot in the government. Another advantage is on the government side, there's one entity with whom we negotiate. It's just we're talking with one party, and then they handle all of the downstream contracts. Disadvantages, there's an artificial separation between the government and sub-tier participants. So if a subcontractor has an issue with something happening, for example, they have to work that through the prime and do not come to the government with that typically. Another disadvantage is if the prime is not performing, the whole contract or agreement kind of falls apart because we only have an agreement with the prime. Again, we don't have that relationship with anybody else. Also, one that is applicable for Thrive is you cannot change leadership mid-program with a typical prime sub relationship. So in a prime sub relationship, the one prime is responsible for every phase of the program. And then we'll move on to privity of contract with respect to a multi-party team. So again, this is a pretty dynamic situation, and we make sure that we have it defined. So the team members will have their own agreement, either articles of collaboration, a teaming agreement, something of that nature that binds them to each other. The team elects one member to act as their program team lead with the government, but the government signs the agreement with the team as a whole. So there's one agent that actually will sign, so we're not asking potentially 5 to 10, however many participants to sign. There is an elected agent that signs, but we have privity with all team members. So while the program team lead is maybe the one who will lead certain stages or who will interact with the government at certain stages, we do have privity with all team members for the duration of the agreement. Some advantages and disadvantages to multi-party relationship. Again, for Thrive, we think the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages. So throughout this program, we're really looking for that collaborative approach. In a multi-party relationship, the team members have chosen each other, and it should be a really collaborative, hopefully healthy relationship that can bring more to the table than would be available in a prime sub type relationship. It allows us that insight and visibility into all levels, since we do again have that privity of contract. It's just a different type of relationship. Resource sharing, which also applies to the Thrive program, it comes from the team, and how the team chooses to allocate that is up to them. It does not necessarily have to be split evenly. That is completely up to the team and what their agreement dictates. And then the bottom bullet there is, again, really something that we think is important for Thrive, and that's that leadership of the effort can change as the effort evolves. And that is something that we expect throughout this program as we enter different phases and stages, that the leadership of the effort will change. Some disadvantages, again, I kind of talked with the time that it can take for the team to sign their own internal agreement, sometimes called articles of collaboration or a teaming agreement, that's what binds the team members together. It can be an advantage and it can be a disadvantage, but again, it can take a good amount of time if certain team members have different priorities or there's a lot to negotiate internally. The bottom one, it is a relatively unfamiliar relationship for a lot of government performers. It's not something we typically see in the government, and that unfamiliarity can just breed a little bit of anxiety about the unknown, but it's something that we have a lot of experience with here at ARPA-H and are happy to answer questions on. But again, that the articles of collaboration or teaming agreement are 100% within the team members, and the government will not get involved in kind of helping decide what should be in your agreement. Once again, so Thrive will make awards to multi-party teams and not to prime subs. The OTs will be executed by ARPA-H and then the designated team member, but again, we do have that privity of contract with all team members, so it should be expected that we will be in communication with all team members at some point. The multi-party teaming agreement, or if you have a different name for it, will need to be executed prior to award, so we will not be able to award the OT if there's not a solidified team to award it to. Once again, we will not be a party to your multi-party teaming agreement. We won't have input there. We won't have a signature line there or anything like that, but it should meet the expectations that are outlined in the ISO. And the expectations, there's just a couple here, it's not limited, but how you guys are handling your own teaming agreements is up to you, but there are the minimum expectations. Next, we'll go into the evaluation criteria, and this is in descending order of importance. So the most important thing to us in the evaluation is the overall scientific and technical merit of the proposal. Next is a potential contribution and relevance to the ARPA-H mission, followed by capabilities and experience of, in this case, the team. And then cost realism is our fourth element. Some final guidance, once again, the ISO that is posted to sam.gov or the program page has the final word and is binding. Any updates or amendments will be posted to sam.gov. If you have questions on anything, please submit them to the Thrive org box here after checking posted questions and answers or the FAQs that we have out. Those can be found on the Thrive page. And we will not be responding to individual emails, but we'll rather post those on sam.gov and the Thrive FAQ page as appropriate. Some may be modified to be more generic and applicable to others, but we will do our best to answer everybody's questions. Make sure that you are registered and updated in sam.gov and are familiar with the ARPA-H Solutions submission portal. Please don't wait till the last minute for that either. Kind of get in there and get familiar with both of those sites. And finally, of course, just please read the ISO. And if there are any questions that come out of that, please submit them. But the ISO is the final guidance, and that will trump anything that is in these slides or that might be said verbally or anything like that. So please read the ISO and make sure you have a thorough understanding before the next step, which is submitting your solution summary. That's all that we have for the agreements officer portion of this. And next we will hand it over for some cost and administrative requirements. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and I'll be going over the cost and administrative requirements. Following your proposer's day, the next major step is to submit a solution summary, which includes a rough order of magnitude. The ROM is a one-page overview to provide estimate details to support your proposed budget. A template will be provided, and I'll review the template on the next slide. After your solution summary is submitted and evaluations are complete, the next step is the full proposal submission. With your full proposal, you'll provide a more detailed, in-depth build of your budget, and that will be referred to as Volume 2, the cost proposal. Proposers will use the ARPA-H cost proposal spreadsheet, which will include multiple tabs and support your budget. This spreadsheet is editable, and a template will be distributed with solution summary feedback. All teams must use this template. For full proposal Volume 3, the Administrative and Policy Requirements section, you'll provide team member identification, organizational conflicts of interest, national security disclosure, novelty of proposed work, intellectual property, human subject research, and animal subject research, and representations regarding the unpaid delinquent tax liability or felony conviction under any federal law. On this slide, I'll review the ROM template that proposers will use for their budget in the solution summary submission. You'll notice that each category is broken out with direct labor, which will be fully burdened, labor hours, vendor and consultant details, materials, equipment, travel, and other direct cost. You'll also provide information about cost share at the bottom. In addition, you'll also break out your budget estimates with each module. You'll see modules 1, 2, and 3 listed above. On this slide, we'll review Volume 2, the cost proposal. Proposers will receive an editable template after solution summaries are evaluated. The template must be used by all team members, the program team leads, and all additional team members. All team members must provide the same level of details. This includes all personnel costs, equipment, supplies, travel, indirect costs, ODCs, vendors, consultants, and cost resource sharing. While the program team lead is ultimately responsible for ensuring all documents are submitted, team members may submit directly via email to the Thrive email address listed on the slide. Please clearly title the subject line non-PTL team member cost proposals. Also, for cost and pricing detail support, you will not receive a template for those. These will be additional templates that proposers will provide with additional information for vendor quotes, cost and pricing, data support, value analysis for supporting information. Please note that for your cost proposal, there are no funding limits or range for individual awards. All conforming proposals will be evaluated and considered for award. Awards are expected to be issued with negotiated milestones and payments tied to actual progress and milestone completion. On the next 2 slides, we'll go over cost proposal suggestions and reminders. Please provide all requested information on the cost proposal cover sheet in your proposed submission. That includes cost estimates of total funds requested from ARPA-H, all cost share details, cost breakdown by fiscal year and module, a summary of projected funding requirements by month for all modules of the project, supporting documentation, itemization of team members. If consultants are to be used, proposers must provide consultant agreements or other documents that verify the proposed loaded daily and hourly rates. Please consider timing for equipment purchase needs. Consider timing for animal subjects research. Ensure proposed costs are consistent with the statement of work. Also, reflect a sufficient understanding of the cost and level of effort needed to successfully accomplish the proposed technical approach. And please state how the proposed costs are realistic for the technical and management approach and accurately reflect the technical goals and objectives of the solicitation. Please do not change the formulas given in the spreadsheet. If the formulas must be changed to match your business practices, please make sure that the total tab accurately reflects the cost correctly. Also, please submit in Excel format. This should be the editable version. Please do not submit it in a PDF format. This will increase processing time. Also, please do not delete any rows, columns, or worksheets in the spreadsheet. If it is not deleted, just ignore it or leave it blank. Again, deleting will break the formulas and increase processing time. Please do not add labor categories that are not listed in the Excel spreadsheet. And lastly, don't cost strategize. We really emphasize this because ARPA-H recognizes that undue emphasis on cost may motivate proposers to offer low-risk ideas with minimum uncertainty and to staff the effort with junior personnel in a more competitive posture. And ARPA-H strongly discourages these cost strategies. And this concludes my overview of the cost and administrative requirements. Back to you, Mimi.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for your interest in Thrive and for your attention to this presentation. Further information and details are available in the Thrive ISO, accessible through the website. Please do not hesitate to reach out with questions through the portal. We look forward to your proposals. Our future depends on you.